floor to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
Thank you, Ranking Member. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I want to make it very clear, I'm not against unions. I'm not at all. Some of my very good friends work for unions. They work hard and they do a good job. And so my statements, please don't make an assumption that I'm anti-union. But I also want to set the record straight. All three of you guys have talked about employers being intimidating their employees. But you guys haven't ever spoke about when the unions try to unionize, the intimidation they have to other people that aren't wanting to unionize. You guys don't mention that. Because, see, I started with nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, I started below nothing. And I started growing this little plumbing company with 6 employees to now we have over 300 employees. And back in 2009, you guys tried to unionize me. My guys were making money. They were getting paid more than the union halls were paying their plumbers. Our benefits were better. But because we started bidding jobs that were union jobs and winning those, union pipe fitters decided they were going to come after us. They would show up at my house. They'd be leaning up against my trucks. I'm not afraid of a physical confrontation. In fact, sometimes I look forward to it. That's not my problem. But when you're doing that to my employees, and then when that didn't work, they started picketing our job site, saying, shame on Mullen. Shame on Mullen. For what? For what? Because we were paying higher wages? Because we had better benefits and we wasn't requiring them to pay your guys' exorbitant salaries? You talk about CEOs that are making all this money, and what do you make, Mr. O'Brien?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question.
Yeah, I know what you make, because in 2019, your salary was, what is this, $193,000? I'm sure you got some pay raises since then.
Yeah, when I was a
And the average UPS driver, the feeder driver, makes $35,000 a year. And what do you bring?
That's
to the
inaccurate.
Table? Hold on a second.
That's inaccurate. State facts.
I've got it right here.
State facts. That's inaccurate.
The average UPS feeder driver makes $35,000. If you don't know your facts, then maybe you should.
I know them because I negotiate the contract.
So I say one thing to you. What do you bring for that salary?
What do I bring?
Yeah. What job have you committed, or have you started? What job have you created? One job, other than sucking the paycheck out of somebody else that you want to say that you're trying to provide because you're forcing them to pay dues? And
no, we don't force them.
Senator, you've asked the question.
You're out of line.
Let him
man.
answer the
Actually, I
question.
haven't, and don't tell me I'm out of line.
You are out of line.
Don't tell me I'm out of line.
Well, you frame.
Don't tell me.
You frame the statement
you
like a
shut
tough
your
guy.
mouth because you don't know
you're
what you're
tell me
talking
to shut
about.
my mouth?
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Hold it.
Yeah.
Hold it.
Yes, I
Tough
did.
guy. I'm not
Senator,
afraid of physical.
Senator,
You don't have
hold
to be,
it.
but don't sit there and tell me I'm out of line.
Senator, you made a statement. You asked the question.
I didn't ask a question.
You did.
You did.
I answered the question.
You asked the question about how
Well, it
much
was
money.
rhetorical.
Let him answer.
It was a rhetorical
Well,
question,
you
sir.
may think it's rhetorical.
It was
Sounded to me
rhetorical.
like a question. Let him answer the question.
I'm not yielding my time to him. So if you're going to let me keep my time, that's fine.
You'll have your time. Let him. You ask
your
a question. He has
So-
a right to answer that.
As far as my salary goes, my salary, if you follow me around, I actually look at this building. I bet you I work more hours than you do, twice as many hours.
That's impossible. But
No, that's true.
Sir, you don't even know what hard work is. You
Secondly,
wanna follow my schedule,
secondly, I'll do it in
please
a
follow.
minute. Secondly, UPS feeder drivers, and you can quote Carol Tomei, who quoted this. They make $93,000 on the lower end. Some of them
said
making
feeder drivers.
$150,000.
I said feeder drivers.
Feeder drivers, tractor trailer drivers. Some of them making $150,000 per year.
Some of them do.
And
I don't
most of them
disagree with that.
most of them
After
make
you've been
over-
there
most
four-
of them-
after you've been there 4 years.
Most of them make over $1,000.
Okay.
Most of them make over $100,000.
So reclaiming my time, I go back to the whole fact that, sir, you haven't created a job.
We haven't?
You haven't been there. You haven't.
Sure we have.
You haven't.
Sure we have.
Tell me one job that you created.
What are you talking about? Be specific.
You're
Like,
an
what do you mean?
employer?
No, we're not
You
an
employ
employer.
people?
No, but it's funny.
no, then hold on, then
we
that's
create
not creating
opportunity.
jobs.
We create opportunity because we
Sir,
hold
that's
we
not-
hold greedy CEOs
That's
like yourself
not-
accountable.
You're calling me a greedy CEO.
Oh yeah, you are.
Hilarious.
You want to attack my salary? I'll attack yours. What
go
did you
ahead.
make? What did you make when you owned your company?
When I made my company, I kept my salary down at about $50,000 a year because I invested every penny into it.
Okay, all right. You mean you hid money?
No, I didn't hide. Oh, hold on a second.
Okay, go ahead.
He said that's out of line. You
All
said
right,
I
we're
was
e-
out.
we're even, we're even.
We're not even. We're not even close to being even. You think it's smart? You think you're funny?
No,
you're
you do-
not.
You think you're funny.
No, I never said. Did I
You
smile?
frame
Did I laugh?
your opening
Hold on,
statement.
hold on, let's,
You frame your opening statement
No,
saying you're a tough
Senator,
guy.
continue,
This-
Senator, please
This is
continue your
behavior,
statements.
but sir, this is. I think it's great that you're doing this because
Me too.
this shows their behavior on how they try to come in and
No, I-
unionize a shop.
know.
No, it's
and
just-
they say about intimidation, and it's not about intimidation.
This
it's
may
not the
show your
employees
behavior
support.
here, but stay on the issue, please.
The issue is, if you're really for the employee, then why are you against right to work? Why are you against private ballots? Okay. If you're really about the employee, let the employee make the choice. I'm not anti-union, but when you don't want to have a private ballot, that's not intimidating? That's not intimidating? Why wouldn't you want a private ballot? That is intimidating the employee. If you don't want a right to work state, don't force somebody to pay dues to an organization they may not agree with. Don't force somebody to do something they don't want to do. That's called employee choice. If you want to be part of a union, God bless you, be part of a union. I have no issue with that. But don't sit up here and say that an employee is the one that intimidates their employers are intimidating their employees not becoming a union.
Okay, Senator,
That's not
thank
accurate.
you. Thank you very much. Senator Murray.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I actually would like to start by recognizing how much progress that we have made.
Limited is the time of all of our members here. So I'm going to be asking you to respond to each question as briefly as you can, hopefully with a yes or a no. Do you understand that in America, workers have a fundamental right to join a union and collectively bargain to improve wages, benefits, and working conditions? Do you understand that?
I understand, and we respect the right of every partner who wears a green apron, whether they choose to join a union or not.
Are you aware that NLRB judges have ruled that Starbucks violated federal labor law over 100 times during the past 18 months, far more than any other corporation in America?
Sir, Starbucks Coffee Company unequivocally, and let me set the tone for this very early on, has not broken the law.
Okay. Are you aware that on March 1st, 2023, an administrative law judge found Starbucks guilty of, quote, egregious and widespread misconduct, end quote, widespread coercive behavior, and showed, quote, a general disregard for the employees' fundamental rights, end quote, in a union organizing campaign that started in Buffalo, New York in 2021. Are you aware of that?
I'm aware that those are allegations, and Congress has created a process that we are following, and we're confident that those allegations will be proven false.
All right. Mr. Schultz, before answering the following questions, let me remind you that federal law at 18 U.S. Code Section 1001 prohibits knowingly and willfully making any fraudulent statement.
I understand that.
Were you ever informed of or involved in a decision to fire a worker who was part of a union organizing drive?
I was not.
Were you ever informed of or involved in a decision to discipline a worker in any way who was part of a union organizing drive?
I was not.
Have you ever threatened, coerced, or intimidated a worker for supporting a union?
I've had conversations that could have been interpreted in a different way than I intended. That's up to the person who received the information that I spoke to him about.
Were you informed of or involved in the decision to withhold benefits from Starbucks workers in unionized stores, including higher pay and faster sick time accrual?
My understanding, when we created the benefits in May, 1 month after I returned as CEO, my understanding was under the law, we did not have the unilateral right to provide those benefits to employees who were interested in joining a union.
Am I hearing you say that you were involved in the decision to withhold benefits from Starbucks workers in unionized stores? Is that what I'm hearing?
It was my understanding that we could not provide those benefits under the law.
Mr. Silch, have you ever asked the Starbucks worker, quote, if you hate Starbucks so much, Why don't you go work somewhere else?
I'm glad you asked that question because I've read in the press that quote, and that's not exactly what I said. Can I tell the story? Do you mind?
I have some other questions, I'm sorry. There are a lot of people.
I think it's important to hear the facts.
All right, you'll have your chance. Will you commit to testifying in any trial where you personally are accused of breaking federal labor law, something that you have been accused of doing nearly 100 times since 2021?
Mr. Chairman, let me say under oath, these are allegations and Starbucks has not broken the law.
Mr. Schultz, were you informed of or involved in the decision to close all Buffalo area stores in November 2021, just days before area union elections, in order for Starbucks employees to listen to you give a speech on why they should vote against forming a union, a meeting the NLRB has determined was a violation of the law?
I think this is another area that I hope I get a chance to speak about. For the last 12 months, my involvement, my engagement, and my return to Starbucks has been primarily, I would say 95%, focused on the operations of our business, the customer, domestically and around the world. My involvement and engagement in union activities, despite this event today, has been de minimis. I was not involved in any issue of closing stores.
Are you aware, Mr. Schultz, that an administrative law judge ordered you to record and distribute a video of yourself reading a notice to Starbucks employees about their rights under the National Labor Relations Act, how Starbucks violated those rights, and to assure that Starbucks will not infringe upon those rights in the future, and that this notice must be posted in all Starbucks stores and shared digitally to all of Starbucks employees? Are you prepared to read that notice?
No, I am not, because Starbucks Coffee Company did not break the law.
Under your leadership, Starbucks has repeatedly refused to bargain with any of the 7,000 workers in nearly 300 stores where workers have voted to represent themselves through a union. The first group of workers to win their election have been waiting more than 460 days to reach a first contract. Mr. Schultz, will you commit right now that within 14 days of this hearing, Starbucks will exchange proposals with the union, something it has refused to do for more than 450 days, so that meaningful progress can be made to bargain a first contract in good faith? Will you make that commitment?
Because the arrangement that was made by the union and the NLRB in Buffalo to negotiate one single store at a time, we have met over 85 times for a single store. We've tried to arrange over 350 separate meetings. We've said publicly, and I say it here again, that we believe that face-to-face negotiations is the way to proceed. And the reason I want to make that point is that there have been safety issues in which Starbucks managers have been outed on social media. There are privacy issues. We don't want to do it on Zoom. We are prepared to meet face-to-face on a single store issue.
Will you make a promise to this committee that you will exchange proposals with the union so that we can begin to make meaningful progress?
On a single store basis, we will continue to negotiate in good faith. That's what we'll do.
2 minutes over.
Senator Cassidy.
I defer to Senator Paul.
Ayn Rand's Howard Roark points out the ingratitude.
Call your employees partners. Do you value your employees or your partners that want to join a union or have joined a union? Do you value them as much as you value those that have not yet joined a union?
We have respect for every single partner who wears a green apron, regardless of their choice to go for a union.
So yesterday, I had the opportunity to meet with some unionized Starbucks workers from Minnesota, Gracie and Elizabeth, and they tell me that Starbucks is cutting their weekly hours. They estimate that they're losing $4 an hour in wages because the company won't allow them in unionized stores to access credit card tipping. when that's available to workers in non-unionized shops, and they tell me that they are simultaneously understaffed in their stores and unable to get enough hours to pay their bills. If these folks are your partners, why are you treating them differently than the non-unionized workers?
When we raised wages in May, my understanding was that under the law, we did not have the unilateral right to provide those benefits to partners who were involved in collective bargaining. And that is why.
So you have said that several times during this meeting. You've said that you cannot legally provide these benefits without bargaining over them, but you know, I'm sure, that the union has specifically stated in this letter, July 15th, 2022, that they waived any objection to bargaining on this. It says in the letter, to this end, the union hereby waives any objection that we might have to Starbucks providing union-represented employees with any wage or benefit improvements provided to unrepresented employees. So I don't think this, I just think you're wrong.
Oh, let me try and explain. There are an array of wages and benefits that need to be negotiated in the collective bargaining process. It would not be proper to take one piece of the puzzle out of the negotiating process, since the people who have joined the union have decided that they want to negotiate a contract. It is our preference and our right to negotiate that contract fairly and objectively, but not in piecemeal.
Yep. So I think that the way the law reads is that there is an exception to that requirement to negotiate when the employees make a clear and unmistakable waiver to bargaining. But let me ask you about this, because the first Minnesota store union was certified over 320 days ago, and no meaningful bargaining has happened since then, though there have been some meetings. Do you know how long those meetings have been in Minnesota?
I'm not involved in any of the meetings.
So the Minnesota folks tell me that those negotiation sessions have not lasted longer than 6 minutes. So that seems to me, sir, as a failure to negotiate in good faith.
From my understanding, in many of the meetings that we've showed up to have face-to-face meetings, the other side has decided to put on a Zoom or a Teams, and then we decide, and we've told them up front, that we will not negotiate unless the meeting is in person and we know who's in the room. And so we have left those meetings as a result of the fact that we could not preserve the privacy and the integrity of a face-to-face meeting.
So my observation here is that this feels like sort of a catch-22, because you are not willing to bargain on issues like credit card tipping, while we are simultaneously, you're not coming together to bargain at all. And so I think that that is why the employees are feeling, who are wanting to be in a union, that feel so frustrated. But I want to just touch on one other thing. I've been listening really closely to you today, and I also come from the private sector, had my own company at one time before I moved into the public sector, and I've been really struck by your focus on what an excellent company you are. And honestly, it sounds as if you are personally offended or even insulted that anyone would question you or your company. And it seems as if you feel that only bad companies should be unionized, that there's something nefarious about a company that is done something bad and therefore they need to be unionized, and that Starbucks doesn't need a union because you are a good company. But I think, Mr. Schultz, that is not your decision to make. And I believe that there is an inherent value in coming together to organize that would address this imbalance of power that I think the many, many Starbucks
Senator,
partners
right.
sitting behind you and in Minnesota feel. I mean, you're a billionaire, and they are your employees. The imbalance of power is extreme, and that is why people want to come together to form a union.
Senator, I agree with you that I do not have who can vote for a union or not. But I am the chairman, I am the CEO of the company, I was the CEO of the company, and I have the preference and the right to communicate to our people about what it is we believe is right for Starbucks. And I want to repeat, 99% of the 250,000 want a direct relationship with the company. And the last thing you said, and it's been said many times by the chairman, I just want to make a point of that. This monarch of billionaire, let's just get at that, okay? I grew up in federally subsidized housing. Let me finish. I grew up in federally subsidized housing. My parents never owned a home. I came from nothing. I thought my entire life was based on the achievement of the American dream. Yes, I have billions of dollars. I earned it. No one gave it to me. And I've shared it constantly
Cassidy.
with the people of Starbucks. And so anyone who keeps labeling this billionaire thing, it's
Mr. Schultz, I don't mean to cut you off. We have time limits here, and you have
Well,
had the
I just think-
opportunity. I'm not cutting you off.
It's your moniker constantly. It's unfair.
No, it is
I
not.
earn-
You have had more time. I've
Well,
been generous with the time.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
But Mr. Chairman.
We have a room full of people.
Yeah.
We have panel to go after you. You're
Fine,
not the only
fine.
person testifying.
Okay.
Senator Cassidy.
The story will come back to that because it sounds like something to do.
I hope you do.
I'll defer to Senator Mark Wayne Muller.
Well, thank you. And considering the chairman doesn't want to hear any of that information, because I believe he's pretty biased in his opinion already, Mr. Schultz, I'll give you an opportunity to finish that if you'll do it quickly.
Thank you very much. So, as you might imagine, we're very curious to understand what happened in Buffalo. And we later found out that this individual, which was hired in 2020, was paid for and under the employment of the union that was basically trying to organize Starbucks. We later found out there was more than one person. And so you might want to ask yourself, where's the fairness, the objectivity, and the integrity of what we're talking about here today?
No, and I mean, if you're anti-union as a CEO, you're anti-union busting, or you're for union busting. I'm not saying you're anti-union. I'm just saying that it seems like to me, as a former CEO, not nearly at the success that you were at, sir, and I'm not trying to defend your company because, quite frankly, politically, we're on totally different ends of the spectrum. And so the irony of this hearing is actually kind of funny. And I do want to point out some hypocrisy about this hearing with the chairman. And it's not trying to get personal. All this information is going to be very public. But the fact that you can't defend your company because you want to have a good relationship with your employees and you believe in employee value, which we all do. Any CEO knows that the success of our companies are based on our employees. We get that. But it seems like unions today, all they want to do is fight with their employees or their employer, the same employer that is hiring those team members, and that friction causes a very volatile and tough workplace. And if the company and the employees aren't in the same boat, rowing in the same direction, then neither one can be successful. And unions themselves, if you're part of a union, you can never be an executive, you can never be a manager, and never be a CEO. And if you can't be an executive or a manager or the CEO, then how are you actually going to implement the changes that the unions want in those positions to begin with? And it seems like they actually hold back their team members. Mm-hmm. But I take offense to the chairman pointing out that all CEOs are corrupt because they're millionaires. You know, if you make a lot of money, you're corrupt. It's bothering to me because, Mr. Chairman, you yourself have been very successful. Rightfully so. Glad you have been. You've been in office for 28 years, and you and your wife have immersed a wealth of over $8 million. And in fact, your quote on being wealthy and being a millionaire was, well, if you write a bestseller, you can be a millionaire too. If you can be a millionaire, why can't Mr. Schultz and other CEOs be millionaires and be honest too? If that's the case, then why is it that Mr. Schultz, who actually creates jobs and a bestseller of a book, isn't creating any jobs? Why is it that he's corrupt and you're not? Why is it that all CEOs are corrupt because they're wealthy, and yet our chairman, who is wealthy, and I'm glad you are, you're not? Guys, the government's role is to create an environment for entrepreneurs, for go-getters, for world changers, to be successful in life. The U.S. government is designed for people that want to succeed can. We can go out and achieve anything that we choose to. But when you lean towards socialism, what you think is government is the answer, and unions are the choice. And if you're against us, then you're dead wrong and you must be corrupt. That's not the world we're living in. That's not the America that we believe in. And I'm not against unions. If you want to choose to be in a union, be in a union. But if you choose not to, then you choose not to. And that's why I'm good with right-to-work states. That's honestly why unions actually thrive in Oklahoma, and we're right-to-work states, because it creates a happy environment and a good environment, because employees get to choose what they want to be part of. And the employer can have a say in it. What is wrong with choice? What is wrong with employees having a choice? What is wrong with the CEO defending his company and openly saying that he is providing good benefits and paying higher than everybody else? But yet, if you're not part of a union, you're also paying starvation wages. What hypocrisy? What bias? Chairman, you are chair of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee. We shouldn't have a biased approach. We should have what's best for America and all those that want to thrive and work in it. And so while we politically disagree, Mr. Schultz, I applaud you for your success. And I applaud all the CEOs out there for their success and all the employees that work hard, that's in the same boat, that's making their companies great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, let me respond. The senator did mention my name, I think. And I think you got an all-time record here. You've made more misstatements in a shorter period of time than I have ever heard.
Please correct
Well,
me,
if I'm
because
worth
it's
$8
all
million,
public.
excuse me.
It's all public.
Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right? Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
If I'm worth $8 million, that's good news to me. I'm not aware of it. That's a lie. All right? Number two.
Part of public records.
You're probably looking at some phony right-wing internet stuff. It ain't true.
No,
All right? You should read beyond that. It is not true.
it's
All
part
right?
of public records.
No, it is not public record.
Okay. Well, you made
It is not
$1.7 million on your book.
public record.
You made
All right? It is-
1.7 on your book.
Excuse me. I've got the mic now. Number
you not
two,
make the statement
I
that if
have
you want to
the
be a
mic
millionaire?
now. I've got it.
Did you
had
not
your
make
time.
that statement?
You had your time.
Okay.
All right? You're not telling the truth. Second of all, you got no evidence that I have ever said that all CEOs are corrupt. I have never, ever said that.
Probably not all, but every time you talk
probably
about
not, then
CEOs, you do
shouldn't
say that.
say it. Furthermore, what this hearing is about is whether or not you talk about being pro-union. Really, what this hearing is about is whether workers have the constitutional right to form a union. The evidence is overwhelming, not from me, but from the National Labor Relations Board, is that time after time after time, despite what Mr. Schultz is saying, Starbucks has broken the law and has prevented workers from joining unions to collectively bargain for decent wages and benefits. Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Schultz, I want to begin.
I defer to Senator Paul.
Ayn Rand's Howard Roark points out the ingratitude that man has for the entrepreneur, the creator. Thousands of years ago, the first man discovered how to make fire. He was probably burnt at the stake he taught the others to light. But he left them a gift that had not been conceived, and he lifted darkness from the face of the earth. Now, Starbucks didn't exactly discover fire, but Starbucks did somehow, somewhere discover in the depths of man's soul that he would pay as much for a double mocha latte as he once did for a week's worth of coffee. My wife Kelly and I tried to get my grandparents some fancy coffee once, and my grandfather, a survivor of the Depression, informed us in no uncertain terms that he drank Maxwell House, $3.99 for a week's worth of coffee. The Pauls, although German, often missed the zeitgeist of the times, and so while we continue to purchase Maxwell House, others, our contemporaries, bought Starbucks stock and did much better than we did. Who knew people would pay $6 for a cup of coffee? But I digress. Convincing the public to buy very expensive coffee is not the discovery of fire, but still it deserves respect. Instead, Congress convenes today not to praise Starbucks, but to bury them. The hearing today is convened to attack a private company for its success, when its success has benefited both customers and its employees alike. We've heard of the average wages, over $17. We've heard of the 401k plans. We've heard of the parental leave, even for part-time employees. Starbucks giving away tens of millions of dollars each year. They have 100% tuition and fee for a bachelor's degree. Maybe it doesn't sound like too bad a place to work. Starbucks is among the most charitable companies in the country. Since 2016, they've had a program to give away unused food to feed over 5 million hungry families. Starbucks didn't do all this under orders from a government bureau. They did it because capitalism works. We have more charity when we have more money, when we have more success, when we have more profit. Nobody buys $6 coffee in impoverished nations. We're an extraordinarily rich nation. Marion Tupy and Gail Pooley wrote a book called Superabundance. They say we live in an era of superabundance. Starbucks can only exist in an era of superabundance. The average calorie count since when I was born was about 2,800. It's gone up to 3,700. Many would argue you have too much food. You can buy 7 times as much food for the same amount of worker hours. If you measure stuff in time prices, how many hours of the average worker it takes to buy something, it's extraordinary how wealthy we are. Even in inflation-adjusted terms, from 1960 to today, 1950 to today, the average income, inflation-adjusted, is up 4-fold. These are all extraordinary tales. This is also an extraordinary tale of a company that started out of nothing and employs tens of thousands of people, all making great wages. And we're here to say as if this is like, Charles Dickens. I mean, we think it's 1812. I mean, it's an amazing success story we live in, the era of superabundance. In 1820, 96% of people lived on less than $2 a day. Adjusted for inflation, you know how much of the world lives that way? Less than 10%. Trade, capitalism, profit. People all the time are talking about, we want sustainable this and sustainable that. You know what's sustainable? Capitalism and profit and employment. You want to put all the Starbucks workers in the government dole? You want to have a government coffee company? What are we talking about here? If you don't want their coffee, be like my family and buy Maxwell House. But for goodness sakes, don't deride one of the great American success stories. This is not who we are. We are better than this. If the goal is to destroy the goose that laid the golden egg, then by all means, this hearing is a good beginning. For me, I see the fabulous success of Starbucks, and I understand that the luxury to spend an extraordinary amount of money for a cup of coffee is a testament to capitalism. It's a testament to the fact that we have enough money that we can do that. When I walk in Starbucks, I don't see billionaires buying coffee. I see everyone from top to bottom in there paying for the coffee because they've decided the quality is worth it. But I don't want to be part of any witch hunt that vilifies any American business, so count me out. Count me as one who is ecstatic that Starbucks is an American success story, and I'll have no part in trashing their success.
Thank you. Senator Hickenlooper, you have to preside soon, so you ask the first questions.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Ranking Member. Mr. Schultz, I appreciate you coming before us, and I realize—
Mr. Chairman?
Senator Romney.
I find it difficult to explain to the American public how it is that we decided to vote on legislation affecting the pharmaceutical industry and the PBM industry without having a hearing from the pharmaceutical industry and the PBM industry, particularly when, as you point out, you've got the CEOs. It's a remarkable accomplishment to get the 3 major CEOs of the largest drug companies to come here and testify. We're going to have them come in after we've marked up the bill. I simply don't understand it, and as a result, I'm making a motion to adjourn this markup until after the PBM hearing, which happens next week on May 10th.
I second that.
I call for a vote.
I would strongly disagree with that, because as I indicated, Senator Romney, you want to talk about explaining to the American people. What you're going to have to explain is why we, in some cases, pay 10 times more for a prescription drug. Well, let me finish, all right, than other people. And this committee intends to address that in a way that we have not seen in recent years. Now, what the ranking member and I agreed upon is this date for a hearing, the legislation that is before us. I am open to an idea of postponing if there is a support for postponing a number of the votes on a number of the bills. That's fine. I think we should vote on the PBM bill and not adjourn this meeting. I've got a lot of work to do on this committee, and I would hope we can go forward in that direction. Further discussion?
Can I ask, though, point of portion of privilege?
Yeah.
If Senator Romney has made that motion and Senator Mullins has seconded, is that, so to speak, privileged? I don't know what our parliamentarian would say, in which that mandates a vote. I'm asking, I don't know that. I'm representing my dais.
Well, as a matter of fact, we agreed, as you know, to roll all votes until the end.
So we would vote on that at the end.
Because we waived the rules.
I got it. No, wait.
Well, do we have,
Not on a motion.
No, I'm not sure that's true.
well, let me find, do we? Yes. All right, then I would put that vote to the end.
Mr. Chair, might I suggest that we recess and talk this through before we vote on the motion?
Any objection to that? Okay, thank you. We'll do that. Okay. What? Okay. All right, recess. Subject to the call of the chair. Now that we're all in agreement about everything, we're all having a great morning. Senator Cassidy and I have chatted. Senator Schumer has chatted. I think the Republicans have chatted. Democrats have chatted. And I think we have reached a resolution. And I would ask unanimous consent that the markup recess, this markup recesses until 10 a.m. May 11th, and that the deadline for filing amendments, including new or modified amendments, be at no later than 8 p.m. May 10th. Fair enough? Are we all happy? Senator Romney, you happy? All right, good. All right, look, bottom line here is, look, guys, I know we've had disagreements today, but I think Senator Cassidy and I, Senator Collins, all of us want to accomplish important goals. So let's go forward together. All right, thank you all very much.
The great thing about capitalism is that supply and demand intersect, and you get the largest supply at the least cost when you allow capitalism to function. Now, capitalism doesn't function very well in the drug markets because the government's been involved for a long time. But prices need to be based on supply and demand. A publicly traded company to promise to base their prices on bullying from a politician would actually be in breach of their fiduciary duty. I mean, it's actually illegal to say, oh, I'm going to make all the prices go down in my company, but it would also be irrational because if you did and there were no profit margin, the companies would be gone and they would no longer exist. Mr. Riggs, if a patient has a copay of $50, would the rational decision be then to choose Lispro over Humalog?
In the case where they were buying one unit, yes, they pay $25, not $50.
Right. So if the patient had a copay of $25 and Lispro is $25 and Humalog's $100, but I'm only going to pay $25, is there any rational reason why I would want to buy the least expensive? Why not buy the more expensive drug at that point?
Well, they're identical. In that case, they'd be indifferent because they're paying $25 out of pocket either way.
So here's the interesting thing. The lower the copay, the less the consumer cares about the price. So you can mandate lower and lower copays, but you might actually get the opposite. You might actually drive consumers towards something that's actually more expensive. So for example, under Obamacare, we made birth control have no copay. So there's no copay for birth control, but if you look at the price of birth control as it became free, the demand became enormous or greatly enhanced, and so the prices went up. From 2013 to 2019, you had a threefold increase in the price of birth control. So the most important thing is we think things through. We all want lower prices, but if you want to mandate lower co-prices for things, you may well get the opposite because you're taking away the consumer from the equation. Now, the consumer's only involved in drug prices through the copay or the deductible. And so much of healthcare, 80, 90% of it's beyond that. And so how do we lower co-prices or we lower prices for drugs? People hire an intermediary. Dr. Kautzner, does anybody hire you, what, businesses, labor unions, because they want higher prices?
Absolutely not, Senator.
If you didn't provide lower prices, would they hire either another PBM or do it on their own?
So we exist in a highly competitive market. So if we didn't deliver the value that we commit to our clients, they would certainly go elsewhere.
So it's quite confusing. We want to blame PBMs for everything, but why do people hire them? No one's forcing anybody to hire them. So as I understand, the companies represented here represent tens of thousands of businesses who voluntarily come to you and hire you. They pay you and you make a profit. So your profit, is it exorbitant? Is your profit, Ms. Cianfrocco, is your profit greater than the drug company somehow?
Senator, our margin is 4%, roughly 4% for the services we provide to all of our clients.
So that's about like Walmart. I mean, I'm surprised we don't have Walmart here today to beat up on Walmart. We're all unhappy, but we have to be rational about what we're doing. So spread pricing, everybody's like, oh, this terrible spread pricing. Dr. Kautzner, do you offer spread pricing and also pass-through pricing?
Yes, Senator, we offer both options to our clients today. Roughly 1/3 choose spread pricing, 2/3 choose a pass-through type of model. They choose spread pricing in order to have predictability on their pharmacy benefits, so we shield them from incremental costs because we effectively provide them with a guarantee or a lock-in on price.
Which is more expensive, spread pricing or pass-through pricing when you offer it?
So we're agnostic to the type of pricing that we offer. It's more for the
No, but when you
client to
offer
make
it,
that
there's a
decision.
price. Is spread pricing cheaper or more expensive than pass-through pricing if I'm a customer?
Generally, they're going to be roughly equal in price or cost.
Ms.
There may be
Cianfrocco, same question.
You're referring to spread pricing as the mechanism where a client pays one price for all the pharmacy claims adjudicated. It offers predictability. In often cases, it offers controlled pricing and can be less expensive than if they pay every claim on a pass-through model, but both are offered to our clients.
This needs to be pretty clear, and people need to think through. We have a bill before us to ban spread pricing. So at least one of the companies, and I think others have said this, spread pricing is less expensive than pass-through pricing. So we're going to ban the cheaper form of buying your drug insurance. Why would we ban the cheaper form? It sounds like if you ban the cheaper form, you might get the opposite result of what you're intending. You might actually get higher prices. Not to mention why we should be banning any of this, but is there a possibility you ban spread pricing and then people decide to add more of a fee on the pass-through pricing? Because, see, their obligation is to their stockholders, and they're legally bound to make a profit. So if you tell them they can't make a profit here, wouldn't they have to try to make a profit somewhere else if they're going to please their stockholders? But the thing is we haven't thought this through. We're angry. Everybody's angry. I'm angry. I've gone to the drugstore before and seen something for $1,600 in acne cream. So we're angry. But why is it so obscure? Why is it different than electronics? Why is it different than buying a car? Why is it different than a lot of expensive things? Because we've made it opaque through all of these different things that we've mandated. In the 1930s, we passed antitrust law, the Robinson-Patman Act, and we made it illegal to pass through discounts based on volume. And then we had a court case in the 90s that says you have to move market share and all these complicated things to get these rebates. But the bottom line is, in a free society, rational thinking, labor unions and businesses and health organizations are choosing a PBM. Why are they choosing a PBM? Do you think they want higher prices? And if a PBM is gouging, then why don't they go to another PBM? There's like 70 some odd PBMs. And yet we've got it in our heads somehow we're going to forbid this. So in the License Pro example, Dr. Kautzner, so what happens to that? If we have a $25 copay and you got $100 Humalog and you got a bigger rebate and you're going to make more profit on the rebate, are you keeping License Pro off of your list, or can I get License Pro if I'm a business and I have people who are diabetic in my business?
Thanks for the question, Senator. So our focus is on lowest net cost of the product, and so that's where we're focused the most. And as we all know, all insulins are not created equal. We actually separate insulins into 3 different categories as well. But our focus is lowest net cost to patients.
Let's say they were equal. You had Humalog and License Pro. It's the same thing. And License Pro is $100, and you get a $75 rebate to make it $25. So now we're equal price to the business you're selling your plan to, but there is more rebate. Does that mean you're excluding License Pro from a list that if I'm a business? Is it somehow working that way to exclude cheaper generics, is my question.
Our focus is on where lowest net cost is available for products.
So I think there is a possibility, and I think that might be one complaint. There is a possibility of this. However, here's the rub. They are still giving you the lowest net price. And so if you say, well, gosh, the generic, I'd rather have the generic, it's underneath the copay. So it's outside of what the negotiation is. And so that's the only way it's going to make a difference to the consumer. But actually, I think that in the long run, as we look at it, the net cost is still what we're looking at. And so when everybody shakes their head and says, oh, the net cost, the list price mean absolutely nothing, the same way they mean nothing in medicine. But the thing is, we got this complicated thing. This isn't capitalism. We got this because of antitrust laws in the 30s. We got this from a court case based on the antitrust law in the 90s. And we have this complicated system. But instead of trying to unravel the complications we put on the market, what we're asking is to ban certain contracts. So I think what you're going to have in the end is you're going to have the unintended consequences of doing something, trying to make things better, and actually make the situation worse.
Senator Paul, thank you. Senator Baldwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witnesses today.
Senator Cassidy.
I defer to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for our panelists for being here. I'm going to address a question real quick about why is it so expensive. 14 years ago, my wife and I wanted to provide health care for our employees. It was actually going to be a benefit because we were having a lot of employees miss work because they couldn't find child health care. So we went through the process of trying to set it up, and it was crazy how expensive it was. Then outside of that, the liability that it brought to our company honestly outweighed the benefit of it. Because of how much regulations that we pour on these early child development centers, preschool, it makes it almost cost prohibitive. And so if we really want to fix cost, we should start looking at ourselves and seeing out a way that we can soften the amount of regulations and still keep our kids safe. Now, let me get to the point of my questions and kind of make a point here. When we're trying to federalize our education system, to me it sounds like we're trying to move more towards socialism. Because when you federalize an education system, you're standardizing what you're going to be teaching our kids and taking the parents out of the ability to have a say in it. And so I have a lot of concerns by this, and it still baffles me that the chairman of our committee, Health, Education, I'm going to put that big, Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee, that was appointed by our Senate Democrats, is a self-proclaimed socialist. I'm not just calling that. Chairman, you openly say that you're a socialist. In your book, Outsider in the House, the chairman says, Bill Clinton is a moderate Democrat. I'm a Democrat socialist. That's over our education system. I have a book here in front of me called Our Skin that has been endorsed by NACI. And I'm going to read exactly what this book says. You guys might find it interesting. A long time ago, way before you were born, a group of white people made up an idea called race. They sorted people by skin color and said that white people were better, smarter, prettier, and they deserved more than everybody else. This would be taught if we socialize our pre-K system. This would be taught.
Do you disagree with that findings in the book?
1,000%. How about we teach Jesus loves me? How about this? In teaching Jesus loves the little children, the lyrics go, red and yellow, black and white, they're all precious in our sight. Now, which one would you think would be better? I'll ask everybody on the panel, which is better to teach? This, that is a story that was made up to teach our kids, 3-year-olds who have no idea what race is, now all of a sudden is being taught that white people said this as a truth. Someone point at me that this being a truth, that white people developed race, that white people developed that all of a sudden that was our word that we developed. By the way, I'm Cherokee, Native American. I think we have experienced a little bit of racism before in my life, Chairman.
Senator Mullen.
So I ask everybody on the panel, which one is better to teach? This or the Jesus Loves Me lyrics? Ma'am, I'll start down here. Just tell me which one. I don't have time for an explanation.
What I'll tell you, Senator Mullen, is that what children in these early years develop
I
their
didn't
identity.
Ask the question.
It's
the
important,
question is which
it's
one
important
do you
that our
think is better
classrooms are.
I'm just asking which one is better.
Let her answer the question, please.
My question is this.
She will
which
answer
one
it
is
if she
better?
sees fit.
Which one is better?
It's important that children's identity
That's
and
not
language
answering my
and
question.
culture are recognized.
That's not answering my question.
And that's what creates
Ma'am,
strong executive function.
If
and
you don't want to
good
answer my
development.
question, that's fine. Let's move on down the panel. Which one is better to be taught? This book or the Jesus Loves Me lyrics? That says everybody's that everybody's skin doesn't matter. They're all precious in His sight.
I think it's important to teach that all children are seen and valued for who they are, and that's
So,
what
but when you
these
teach
resources
this, don't you
promote.
think that other people are start saying that white kids are to blame?
I think it's
It's
important.
exactly what they're going to teach. It's exactly what it is, ma'am.
I disagree. First, it is important that we teach Jesus. And
Absolutely.
Jesus is what we teach.
So which one is
But
better?
the reality
This?
is...
Do you think this is
Could
the
she
right
answer
thing?
the question, please?
No, I don't want reality. I'm asking the question, which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
Misspoke. So what I'm saying is which one is which? Which one is better to be taught, Mr. Chairman? Is it this, or is it the Jesus?
Is your question directed to me or Ms. Woman?
Well, you keep interrupting me, saying they're not asking the question,
Wanna ask
and
me
I
the
wish
question?
you'd really stay out of
No,
my
no, no.
questions because
It's
it's
his
my
question.
time.
He gets to dictate it.
Which
Not
one?
dictated. Ask the question.
Which one?
Talking to Ms. Woman, right?
Yes,
As I stated, Jesus is always first.
absolutely. I agree with that. So let me end with this because I still have more time because the chairman kept interrupting me. I'm going to close with two quotes, okay? The first is from John Adams. It says, "Morality and virtue are the foundation of a republic and necessary for society to be free." The second one is from our socialist communist, Joseph Stalin, that says, "Education is a weapon whose effect depends on whose hands it is in and whom it is aimed." We got to be careful what we're trying to do here. With that, I yield back.
Senator Baldwin.
Thank you for being here. This is really pretty remarkable testimony coming from you all, listening to what you've had to say. Basically, we've got a broken system. You don't know how to fix it. Money's not going to solve this problem, Ms. Nanda. You don't know the numbers. You don't know the law to enforce the law. So what comes across is that we've got a Homeland Security team here that doesn't believe in securing the homeland because you don't care enough to go deep enough into the issue to be able to define the problem and be able to fix it. Now, Ms. Marcos, I'm going to come to you because I've written Secretary Becerra twice about these children that they just can't find. Now, first letter, he got Acting Assistant Secretary Jeff Hill to send a non-response to my office. And then I sent another letter, and I haven't heard anything from him. I have asked that he come to the committee and talk to us about what has happened with these 85,000 children, where they are, and why efforts are not being made to find them and to be certain that they are being cared for. But there's no response to that because there again, you all believe in open borders. Your goal is not to secure the country and the border. Your goal is to just let everybody come on in and to hell with this trying to find 85,000 kids. You didn't vet the sponsors right. You did not do an FBI background check. Imagine that. You loosen what is required of people, and then you want to come here and say, we need more money so we can do our job. All right, Ms. Director Marcos, Linda Brandmiller, do you know that name? And keep your mic on.
I'm aware of that name.
You're aware of that name. And Jaylyn Solong, you know that name?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that both of these women were whistleblowers. And both of these women were fired for being a whistleblower. Are you aware of that?
Senator,
Quickly, my time's running out. Fast, go.
I'm not aware of the specifics.
You're not aware of the specifics. Do you know who approved this retaliation against the whistleblowers? You do not know.
Senator, I cannot speak to the specifics.
You can't speak to the specifics. Okay, was the secretary notified about the urgent situation developing in the department and that these children were being released to potentially exploitative sponsors? Did anybody pay attention to that? Or did you care? Was it 9 to 5, draw a paycheck, go on? We don't care. We're not concerned about an open border. We're not concerned about protecting children. What is your job? You're the Office of Refugee Resettlement. And you're not going to follow up on where these children are and who has custody of these children? Why did you accept the responsibility to be in charge if you're not going to do your job and protect these children? You don't have an answer to that. You don't know why you accepted the responsibility.
Senator, I would be happy
This is why
to
we need the
speak about this,
secretary
but
to
you're
come.
not giving me an opportunity.
Oh, no, I gave you the, tell me, why did you take the job?
I took the job because I'm a humanitarian. I've spent my life
You're
in this
a
work.
humanitarian who
We
can't
have-
find 85,000 children and don't give a ripping flip about where they are or what is going on in their precious lives. Is that what you're telling me?
That is a mischaracterization of everything that we do. I have tried to explain, but I am not given the opportunity.
Take the time, 25 seconds.
Thank you.
Go.
I appreciate that. When a child is released from our care, there are a number of ways that they can continue to receive services. We attempt the safety and well-being call for every child who's been released. There is no obligation for a child or a sponsor to answer the call, and there's reasons why they may not want to answer a call from the government.
Oh, for
Additionally,
heaven's sakes, they're
please,
being
may I-
paid to take these children,
They're
and
not-
there's no reason
they're
for
not-
them to
They're
answer
not
the
being
phone?
paid- They're not being paid to take these children. Sorry. May I
Yeah, they
finish, please?
Yeah, they are. Go
They
ahead.
also, post-release services, over 50% of our children, we are working hard to get post-release services for all children. We are over 50% right now. That is another way to have a trusted adult in these children's lives. Legal services is another way, and we are expanding. We are providing more legal services
my
than we
time
ever-
has expired, and your
you.
answers are incomplete. I've got 2 more questions I will submit for the record. Mr. Morant, I have one for you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Blackburn. At this point, I want to make sure that Ms. Marcos or someone else on the panel has an opportunity to answer in complete sentences questions about the 85,000 that were mentioned in the New York Times piece. Would someone like to take that on for 60 seconds?
Thank you, Senator, for the opportunity to provide full thoughts on that. There are a number of ways that we engage with children once they have been released from our care. One way is the safety and well-being call that is made 30 to 37 days after they've been released. There is no obligation for a child or sponsor to answer this call, and there are a number of reasons why they might not want to answer a call from government. We also have a number of other touch points, some of them lighter than others. We have the ORR National Call Center. That is a call center that is operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that takes calls from children, from sponsors, from anyone in the community that has a concern or a question about an unaccompanied child. So that call center is available. And then, as I mentioned, we are providing more legal and post-release services in the history of the program. We are very dedicated to continuing to expand that with the support of Congress, and we do feel that it will make a difference by making sure that every one of these children has that trusted adult outside of the sponsor-family relationship. Thank you.
Thank you. Next senator up is history in the making. Her first appearance before the Senate Judiciary Committee, succeeding Senator Dianne Feinstein. As I said at the outset, this was an issue, the fate of these children, near and dear to the heart of the late senator. And I know you come to this meeting today with the same feelings. So we welcome you, Senator Butler. Please proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair Durbin. As noted, as a senator from a border state, a former labor organizer, and a mom.
Thank you, Senator Mullen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to get a little factual on what Mr. O'Brien just said about right-to-work states versus forced work states. According to the compensation data report of the U.S. Commerce Department, an average salary for private sector employee in 2019 was $4,000 higher than the average employee in forced union states, stating that right-to-work states pay more. Now, if we also want to break this down to statistics, which was quoted earlier by Mr. O'Brien, about wage differences, if you talk to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in non-union jobs, their average salaries raised 14.6% compared to 11% wage increase on unionized workers from 2020 to 2023. If you go back to the percentage of union workers, because if unions was working so well, then you'd see an increase in union jobs, not a decrease. 50 years ago, 33% of our labor force was union. Today, it's 10.1%. If you go back and you start looking at wage earned, if you actually compare comparable wages to ages, not a partisan point, but you go to all wages earned, not just comparing 16 and over to 54 to 64-year-old ages, you'll see that the actual average, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that if you subtract the union dues, it's actually higher. Non-union employees are getting paid by roughly 1 to 2%, which is exactly what union dues are, is 1 to 2% of their salary. So I just wanted to set the record straight on that, and that's coming from statistics, all right? Now, let's talk about Mr. O'Brien himself, his behavior. As everybody knows, and it's here in the last time, him and I kind of had a back and forth. Appreciate your demeanor today. It's quite different. But after you left here, you got pretty excited about the keyboard. In fact, you tweeted at me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And let me read what the last one said. It said, "Greedy CEO who pretends like he's self-made." Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
no, stop it.
Is that your solution every problem?
No, sit down.
That's why you're a clown.
Sit down.
Look at you.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit
Active.
down.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a hearing. And God knows the American people have enough of contempt for Congress. Let's not
I don't
make
like
it worse.
thugs and bullies.
You have,
And that's
you
what-
have
I don't
the
like
mic.
you, because you
Hold
just
it.
described yourself.
Hold it. You have the mic.
Yeah.
You have time.
All right.
Make your statement.
Then let's do this, because I did challenge you, and I accepted your challenge, and you went quiet.
No, I didn't go quiet. I was.
Hold on.
No,
You challenged me to a cage match,
No,
acting like a
sir.
12-year-old schoolyard
Hold it.
bully.
Excuse
Sir,
me.
hold on.
Hold it. No, excuse me. I have the
I
mic.
will say exactly.
Senator
what he
Mullen,
said.
I have the mic. You have questions on any economic issues, anything that said, go for it. We're not here to talk about physical abuse.
You brought.
We're not
him
talking
in.
about, of course I
And,
did.
and let me
He's-
let me show you his hearing, because I want to expose this thug to who he is. And
Could you not point at me? That's disrespectful.
All right.
I don't care about respecting you at all. I respect
don't
people that
respect you at all.
respect. So
All right, hold it.
let me
Hold it. No,
You're one of
Yeah,
100 of the most
Hold
elite
it,
people.
please.
Act it.
Please. All right? This is excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
This is a hearing to discuss economic issues. All right? If you have questions for Mr. O'Brien or anybody else on what he has said, go for it. But we're not here to talk about fights or anything else.
I'm quoting exactly what he said.
You can
and
say
this
what
is-
you want,
This is
but-
your witness
This
you
is
brought.
my
And let me.
witness.
I'm exposing him.
You can
as
talk
a person
anything
who
you want.
he is. So in
But no fight-
2013,
Nope.
in 2013, O'Brien was suspended by the Teamsters for intimidating your own members. In 2014, you were part of what would you say, organizing the harassment and intimidation of the Top Shelf crew.
Chef, not chef.
Top Chef, okay. And then, and I think in the reports they said sexual, racist and homophobic slurs and death threats. 14 tires were sliced and 5 Teamsters were arrested. And you said, well, I had nothing to do with it. But however, in that same statement you said, but if I get called to testify, I'll plead the fifth. This is a witness you brought in here. In 2017, you were removed as lead negotiator by then President Hoffa for UPS for your actions. And then in 22, when this guy was elected, what he said after he got elected was he wanted to bring the mob mentality back to the Teamsters. This is your guy.
And you're obviously going to give him a chance to respond to your questions.
Absolutely, because this is my question. Because you called me out. I didn't call you out.
Yeah, you did.
You said anytime, any place.
Let's get the record
Okay.
straight.
Ms. Hold it, no.
Hold on.
Senator Mullen, do you have a question for the witness?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, anytime, any place.
No, that's
April is a charity event.
No, that's not,
No, it's a, sir, he said it, and this is my
He is
time,
here to
and you didn't set
no.
parameters on what the questions can or cannot be asked, and I'll ask.
No,
you
we're not going to be talking about
yes, we
physical
can.
confrontation.
Oh, this is about charity, for a union charity, because this is for firefighters and.
Do you have a question on his testimony?
April.
Grow up,
April
will you
next
please
You have
grow
a
up? You're an
question
embarrassment.
on his, let's not
You
be.
said it.
You're an embarrassment.
You said
You're
it,
an
and I'm just
embarrassment.
simply answering it.
You
Senator
reached
Mullen,
out
go
to
hold
your
it,
buddies.
hold it. Senator Mullen, you made some charges.
Charges?
Mr. O'Brien, do you want to respond to
Yeah,
the
go ahead,
question?
please.
Yeah, I mean, look, the reality of it is,
Accept my challenge, tough
Mr.
guy.
Mullen, tough guy.
Hold it. Answer the questions.
All right, you're one, he made a lot of statements, right? And his statements are fiction at best.
Fiction, I read them.
Can he answer?
What?
Answer the question, please.
I can't understand him, to be honest with you. He rambles so much. What was your question, actually?
Well, you said I made a lot of statements.
No, but what's your question? I don't understand your question. Could you repeat it?
You said anytime, any place.
What's your question?
Accept the challenge.
What challenge?
You said anytime, any place. I'm accepting yours, so why don't you come
What
back?
challenge? What challenge are you talking
April
about?
30th. How about we do it for a charity at the Smoking Guns in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
No, we're not going to be
what was the
talking about
challenge?
physical
What are you talking about?
confrontations here.
You want to fight me?
What'd you say about anytime, any place?
Let's have coffee, discuss our differences.
Oh, that's what you said.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
All right, well, let's sit down and have coffee.
Let's
I'd
do
love
it.
to.
All right. I'd love to.
But
do it.
It's funny how you're backing out.
Okay.
I don't back on anything.
You did.
You're the one. You're a 100.
Senator-
Should be the most influential people in this country, making changes.
Senator
You're
Hassan-
focused on.
Okay.
You're
Thank
focused
you.
on
Why did
debate
you-
that's not
why
even
do you
relevant.
keep texting
You're an
me and they
embarrassment.
silence?
You're an embarrassment.
They went
That's what you
silence
are.
after
You're an
after
embarrassment
my
to the
text.
state of
This
Oklahoma.
hearing is about the condition of the working class in America.
You
That's
brought
what
a
we're
thug
talking.
into this.
You're the biggest thug here.
You brought him in.
All right,
You're the biggest thug. Even your colleagues call you
Why
a
you do
joke.
what you're doing, Senator Hassan.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Senator
Chair.
Hassan, you got a
Senator
question?
Mullen, please yield. I've been recognized
No,
by the chair.
you got it.
Act accordingly.
now-
Microphone is yours.